Today, let us study about the intestine. So, we are going to cover the salient feature of the intestine today. Okay, we have opened up the abdominal cavity. What we are seeing is all the coils of small intestine. You can see surrounded by the large intestine. You can see this is the cecum, the ascending colon, the transverse colon, the descending colon, followed by the sigmoid colon. Okay. Now, first let's study about small intestine. The first part of small intestine is the duodenum. You can see this is actually the stomach. This is actually the stomach. This is the pyloric end of the stomach, which is continuing as the duodenum. We can even see the bile stain of the duodenum. Okay, bile stain which is present in the duodenum. This is actually the duodenum. This duodenum is most fixed part of the small intestine. Okay, duodenum is followed by following the duodenum we have jejunum. Okay, in the duodenojejunal flexure. Okay, in the duodenojejunal flexure we can see this is the fourth part of duodenum. This is the first part of duodenum, second part, the third part, followed by the fourth part, which continues as duodenojejunal flexure here. This is the duodenojejunal flexure. Okay, followed by jejunum. Then this jejunum, first, if you see the length of the duodenum, it is almost 25 centimeter long. This is almost 25 centimeter long, almost completely retroperitoneal, except for the proximal and the distal end. Okay. Then coming to the jejunum and ileum, it is all intraperitoneal. It is suspended by means of mesentery. You can see this. This is the loops of jejunum is suspended by means of mesentery. This is the mesentery. This jejunum will constitute to almost 2/5 of the length of the small intestine. Will constitute almost 2/5 of the length of the small intestine. If you follow the jejunum, it will be continuing as the ileum. Okay, the terminal part of the small intestine is the ileum. Okay, this is actually the ileum. This is actually the ileum. It will constitute to almost 3/5 of the length of the small intestine. The total length of the small intestine is almost 6 meters long. It's almost 6 meters long. This ileum will end in this junction called the ileocecal junction. This is the cecum. This is the ileocecal junction. So this is the total division of small intestine. So the small intestine is starting from the pyloric end of the stomach. From there onwards we have the duodenum followed by the jejunum and the ileum. Now we will see the differentiating features of these three parts of small intestine. If you see the small intestine, the size of the lumen, first you see the diameter of the lumen. Okay, the diameter of the lumen is more for the duodenum. Okay, and slowly the diameter decreases in size as we go towards the ileum. Okay, so the diameter of the duodenum is the maximum, then followed by the diameter of the jejunum. Okay, then at last if you see the ileum, the diameter is very small when compared to duodenum and jejunum. Okay, we can compare the three parts like this. So this is the jejunum diameter, this is the ileum, and what you are seeing here is the diameter of the duodenum. Next, coming to the next differentiating feature. If you open up the intestine, these circular folds of mucosa is called the valves of Kerckring. It's called the plica circularis, otherwise called the valves of Kerckring. These valves of Kerckring are more numerous, and the length of these folds are much larger in case of the proximal part of the intestine, that is more in the duodenum and jejunum when compared to the ileum. Now we will see the valves of Kerckring of ileum. This ileum, you can notice the valves of Kerckring are less numerous when compared to that of the duodenum and jejunum. This is the valves of Kerckring of duodenum. If you compare it with that of ileum, the length of each fold is shorter, and also the number of valves are also much less in case of ileum. The next distinguishing feature is about the arrangement of structures in the mesentery. What you are seeing is actually the mesentery. To know the differentiating features, we should know the content of the mesentery. If you see, the mesentery has got two layers, okay, two layers, and between that we have lot of arteries. We can see the content, okay, the content, we can see the arteries which are running through the mesentery. This artery is arranged in the form of arcades. You can see this is the arterial arcades. You can see these are the arterial arcades. You can see this honeycomb like pattern is the arterial arcades. These arteries, from the ends of the arterial arcade, we can see many straight arteries which are going and supplying the intestine. These are called the vasa recta. Okay, vasa recta. And one more thing what we should know is, between the layers of the mesentery, we have fat. We have the fat which is between the layers of the mesentery. Now we'll see the distinguishing features of the arrangement of mesentery and the structures inside the mesentery in jejunum and ileum. Okay, if you see jejunum, the arterial arcades, if you see the arterial arcades, the number of arterial arcades are very less, only one or two will be there. Okay, arterial arcades, number of arterial arcades are very less. And the fat-free interval between the vasa recta, you can see it is like a window, and hence these fat-free interval between the vasa recta is called the windows. Okay, is called the windows. The windows are more numerous and very well seen in case of jejunum when compared to that of ileum. Okay, and the vasa recta is only and the arterial arcades are only one or two levels of arterial arcades will be there. Okay, now we'll compare these two features of arterial arcades and the windows with that of ileum. Now what we are seeing is actually the ileum. If you see the arterial arcades, which are more number, which is in, we can see multiple arterial arcade level will be seen in case of ileum. And also you can see the vasa recta, you can see the vasa recta, and these vasa recta, if you notice, the length of the vasa recta is much shorter, okay, much shorter in case of ileum when compared to that of jejunum. You can see the length of vasa recta in jejunum is much longer, okay, and the number of vasa recta is also more numerous in case of ileum. The number of vasa recta is also more numerous when compared to that of jejunum. Okay, then coming to the next, the fat laden areas between the vasa recta. Okay, so the windows are less prominent in case of ileum, and these windows are very well seen in case of jejunum. Now let's study about large intestine. If you see the large intestine, we have the following parts. Okay, the large intestine will be extending from the ileocecal junction. You can see this is the ileocecal junction. So from there up to the anal canal. From there up to the anal canal. So the first part of large intestine is the cecum and the appendix. Cecum and the appendix. Okay. First part of large intestine, cecum and appendix. Followed by the ascending colon. This is the ascending colon. You can just see it. This is the ascending colon, which will be ending in the hepatic flexure of the colon. You can see the liver, and the turn which is happening at the level of the liver is actually the hepatic flexure of the colon. This is the transverse colon. You can see this is actually the transverse colon. This is the only part of the large intestine which is suspended by means of the peritoneum. Okay, this is actually the transverse mesocolon. Okay, this is actually the transverse mesocolon. Then followed by the next flexure, which is at the level of the spleen. You can see the spleen here, the spleen, and this turn is happening near the spleen, and hence it is called splenic flexure of the colon. Okay, splenic flexure of the colon, followed by the descending colon. So descending colon, we shall be continuing as this sigmoid colon, and following the sigmoid colon, we have the rectum. This is the rectum and the anal canal. Okay, rectum and the anal canal. So these are all the parts of large intestine. Now let's see the salient features. Okay, see the salient features. There are three salient features for the large intestine. To differentiate it from the small intestine, we have three salient features. So what are these three salient features? The first and foremost is the tinea coli. These are the tinea coli. Okay, this is nothing but the thickened longitudinal muscle coat of the large intestine. Thickened longitudinal muscle coat of large intestine. To understand this, we need to know about the layers of the large intestine. So the layers of large intestine are the inner mucosa followed by the submucosa, then we have the muscularis externa and then the serosa. This muscularis externa will have two coats. One is the inner circular and outer longitudinal. This outer longitudinal muscle coat gets thickened in three places of the large intestine to form tinea coli. This tinea coli will be starting from the root of the appendix. We can follow all the tinea coli from the root of the appendix to occupy different position of large intestine. Okay, we can follow it from the root of the appendix to occupy the different portions of the large intestine. There are three tinea coli. One is present on the anterior aspect, two are present on the posterior aspect. One is on the posteromedial aspect and one along the posterolateral aspect. Okay, so the tinea coli which is present on the anterior aspect is called anterior tinea coli, otherwise called tinea libra. The posterior tinea coli are two in number, one on the medial aspect, other one on the lateral aspect. The one on the medial aspect is called the tinea mesocolica and one on the posterolateral aspect is called tinea omontalis. Okay, and in the posterolateral aspect is tinea omontalis. Okay, we can see the tinea omontalis here. This is the tinea omontalis. Okay, tinea omontalis. The position of the tinea coli may vary depending on the position of the large intestine. We can see in the transverse colon the position of the tinea coli may vary. One will be present on the anterior aspect, one may be in the inferior aspect, and another one in the superior aspect. So this is about the first salient feature, the tinea coli. This tinea coli, the one more important thing, next important salient feature is the sacculation. You can see these sacculations, which are salient feature of large intestine. You can see this sacculation. These sacculations are caused because of this tinea coli itself. The length of the tinea coli is much shorter when compared to the circular muscle coat which is present throughout the large intestine. Since it is shorter, the areas on either side of the tinea coli will become dilated to form sacculations. So that is the second salient feature. Then the third salient feature, what we need to know is about this one. These are the fat-filled projections which are coming from the anti-mesenteric border. If you see, this is the mesentery, okay, of the large intestine, and on the anti-mesenteric border we can see a lot of fat-filled regions. Only in the mesenteric part we won't have any of these things. These fat-filled appendages are called the appendices epiploicae. These appendices epiploicae is the next salient feature of large intestine. These are the three salient features of large intestine. Next, let's talk about the development of the intestine. This entire intestine is going to be derived from gut tube. Okay, this gut tube will be divided basically into three parts: the foregut, the midgut, and the hindgut. Okay, the foregut will give the following derivatives. First, the stomach, the duodenum, okay, up to the major duodenal papillae, which is located in the middle of the second part of duodenum. Okay, up to the major duodenal papillae, which is located in the middle of the second part of duodenum. So this much is derived from the foregut. Okay, up to the middle of the second part of duodenum is derived from foregut. The artery of foregut is celiac trunk. This is the celiac trunk. Okay, the branches of the celiac trunk will supply the derivatives of foregut. You can see this is the foregut, and these are the arteries which are coming from the celiac trunk, which will be supplying the foregut derivatives. From the middle of the second part of duodenum up to the right 2/3 of the transverse colon, will be developed from the midgut. So, what are the regions which are developed from the midgut? The second part, the terminal part of the second part of duodenum, the third part, the fourth part of duodenum, the entire jejunum, the entire ileum, the cecum appendix, the ascending colon, and the right 2/3 of the transverse colon, and the right 2/3 of the transverse colon will be derived from the midgut. Okay, and hence the artery of midgut is the superior mesenteric artery. You can see this is actually the superior mesenteric artery. So all these areas will be supplied by superior mesenteric artery. Here one point what we have to notice, the second part of duodenum is derived both from foregut and the midgut, the upper part from the foregut and lower part from the midgut, and hence it is having dual blood supply both from the branches of the celiac trunk and also branch from the superior mesenteric artery. Then the last derivative is from the hindgut. Okay, the hindgut, the rest of the part of the transverse colon, that is the left 1/3 of the transverse colon, the descending colon, sigmoid colon, rectum and the anal canal will be derived from the hindgut. The artery of the hindgut is actually the inferior mesenteric artery. So hence these areas will be supplied by the branches from the inferior mesenteric artery. So one more thing what we have to note is the transverse colon is derived from both the midgut and the hindgut, and hence it is receiving the blood source both from the superior mesenteric artery and also from the inferior mesenteric artery. This is about the development of the entire intestine.